What's up, everyone? I'm going to give an overview of the analysis feature in Nova Chess. So if you haven't seen the Nova Chess app before, it's really easy to load your games from chess.com or Lichess. Your username should be set in your account so it pulls up automatically, but you can always enter it in here. So I can fetch some games, load the game really easily, and you can either do a game review, which is going to be pretty similar to what the chess.com game review provides. Then there's also more in-depth AI analysis. So this is where it's actually integrated with an LLM. It's provide a lot of information about the game, every position. It's got all the stockfish lines, both from the moves played as well as hypothetical best continuations. So it's providing the LLM with a lot more context than if you were just going to try to chat with ChatGPT or another LLM, because it's provided all the information on the back end. So I've already got a game loaded, which I played a few days ago. This had a lot of key positions, so I thought it was a good one to take a look at. So the three sections in the AI analysis, once it's run, are the game synopsis, the position by position analysis, and finally the key takeaways. So the game synopsis is going to basically be an overview of what happened in the game. It might be useful to look at, especially for trying to replay something to understand what was happening in different parts of the game to sort of contextualize. Then the position by position analysis is where you really probably want to spend your time to review your game. So this was reviewed from the white side as I was playing white. It should automatically detect the side, white or black, based on the username, but you can always toggle it to the other perspective. It's going to focus more on the mistakes made from the perspective side, but it will also identify mistakes played from the other side, as well as whether the player successfully capitalized or did not. So here's the first position. So again, I was white and I just castled with move 7. This was an inaccuracy. Basically, what this allows black to do is play bishop takes e3, continuation is f takes e3, knight a5, drop the bishop back, take, and then h5 here is one of the moves suggested. In this case, you can see the engine gives it slightly better for black, but roughly balanced. In this case, black has gotten rid of white's bishop, and the pawn structure is a little bit compromised. So this wouldn't be great for white. This is why it was an inaccuracy for myself. But if we go back to what I should have done, so rather than castling here, I should have immediately taken on b6. So white should have played 7 bishop takes b6, exchanging on b6 first. After this, then I castle, move like bishop e6, bishop takes e6, and these are the top line of the engine, but you can see here there's going to be alternative lines. Often there will be one or two moves that are pretty similar. In this case, d4, castles. It gives white a slight edge, not a lot, but it would have been a little better than what I played, but it was just an inaccuracy. Then we can see another inaccuracy. So knight g3. This was missing an opportunity. So what I should have done, apparently, is, it says the better plan was g4, which after black's retreating moves like bishop g6, and then a follow-up h4, you can see white has a pretty significant initiative on the king side. I can play queen to e1, queen to g3, push h5, push g5, and this is evaluated as about +1 for white, which is a pretty significant advantage. But if you go back to what happened, well, I played knight g3. This blocks my g-pawn for the future pawn advance, and it allowed black to respond strongly with 11 knight d4. So now that I moved my knight away from the e2 square, black can come in, knight d4, followed by this reply, roughly equal position. Slightly better for white, but I definitely missed an opportunity there. And you can just go through the various moves. You can click in the little table here as well to see what you should have done and why. So let's go to one more here. So knight e5. This is a mistake by black, move 17, but I failed to capitalize. So let's see why. Black's choice of 17, knight e5, and you can see it was on g4 here, weakened their position by allowing white to seize a clear advantage. And says the better alternative was queen to b5. Back up. So queen to b5, as you can see down the stockfish eval as well, this was by far the best move. It would have equalized things, targeting key squares and preparing exchanges that would keep their position roughly equal after moves such as h3, queen takes b3, h takes g4, queen b5, followed by knight f5 exchanges. So yeah, it says down here, knight f, h5. I guess this is the exchange that it's talking about. You can see that the correct approach for white after the move knight to e5 was to play queen to e2. So maintaining pressure while supporting central control. So I think a key here is that this d3 pawn should be defended. And then after responses such as queen b5, now I've got a couple moves. One of them is bishop a2. So yeah, followed by bishop a2, or if they played rook a e8 instead of queen b5, it talks about what the next plan should have been here. So a couple ideas, but what I did instead of queen e2 is I actually played queen to f2. And you can see here, white responded with the passive inaccuracy queen f2 rather than pressing the advantage more forcefully. So why is this an issue? This allows black the pawn break with d5. So this allowed black counterplay with d5, an exchange that neutralized much of white's initiative. Now, in the game, actually that move d5 was not played, but this is what black should have done. And this essentially leads to some exchanges in the center, materials balanced. It should be a roughly even game. So first of all, black made a mistake by playing knight e5, and then I made an error by not doing it. And you can see the description here provides the details you need to understand why it was a mistake, explained in human English language. Okay, so you can get this for all your sort of key moves in the game, and at the very end, what you'll get is a key takeaway section. So this is probably most helpful for more beginner or intermediate players. Just really, it focuses on certain principles. So this is not completely invented by the LLM. There's sort of a set of 30 or so key principles that it will choose from based on what actually happened in the game and highlighting which ones are most important for the player. Okay, so this is an overview of how the Nova Chess analysis page works. You might have some questions about, does it hallucinate? It could. If you've ever tried to ask, say, ChatGPT a question about a chess position, you'd probably notice that it doesn't do a very good job. Now, how have I tried to prevent that from happening in this app? Well, a couple of things. First, I provided only the stockfish lines that are generated from that position. So it's not going to give you random moves. It should follow very specifically the different engine lines. Often there will be, reasonable alternatives such as this move. It will not only suggest the one move, but, it talks about the others. And I've also provided it when an exchange happens or an exchange sequence. It can be bad at sort of understanding what the material count is, so I actually provide that in detail. It will be like a count of this is how many pawns or knights were on the board at the beginning and the end of every position, what the material exchanged was, was material won or lost by each side. And finally, I provide an English language and a Fenn description that's Forsyth Edwards notation, which is essentially where the pieces are located on the chessboard. I provide that information as well at every move, so it's very less likely to hallucinate where pieces are, because, for example, if you have like a bishop on b5, a knight on c6, it will often assume that there's a pin on the king on e8. Now, there might be a piece in between, or the king may not be on e8. So those are the sorts of things that LLMs will often hallucinate, but I've tried to do the best I can to really prevent that from happening. All right, thanks for watching, and feel free to provide any feedback in the comments.